Prince Harry's book Spare and the admissions within it that he took illegal drugs is not proof that he has ever taken illegal drugs. Some of you might think that's the most ridiculous argument you've ever heard, although it might have some legal foundation. We'll come back to that in a moment. But this is what attorneys for the Department for Homeland Security argued at a hearing on Friday in Washington, D.C., when the Heritage Foundation is trying to obtain the release and publication of Prince Harry's immigration documents, documents which are notoriously private and exempt from disclosure. But the argument made for the department was exactly that. They said that the book isn't sworn testimony or proof that he ever took illegal drugs, and saying something in a book doesn't necessarily make it true, and that he might have embellished the details within that book in order to sell the book. Now, that might have a lot of other implications, although it's not Prince Harry that said it. And Prince Harry, remember, is not the one on trial here. No one is saying that he has been dishonest. No one is accusing him of being dishonest. He's not the defendant in the case. He's not even really a party to the case. He's the subject of the case, or rather, his immigration documents are. The Heritage Foundation is trying to obtain the release of these documents to see whether or not he has been given favour in his application process, by which they say either he wrote the same thing in his immigration application as he did in his memoirs Spare regarding the use of drugs, because there are specific questions about that, which I've covered in other videos, or he did not. And then there is the question as to whether that is the truth or not. And the lawyers arguing for the department saying that it's not true, therefore isn't proof, therefore doesn't matter, because this is the underlying reason that the Heritage Foundation says that these documents should be made public, because they say that nobody should have preferential treatment. Now, I've already predicted that these documents are, in all likelihood, not going to be released, and that the department is not going to be ordered to make them public. That is, in my view, because not necessarily because of this argument, but because these documents are inherently private, and the questions and the arguments as to whether he or anybody else for that matter has been given preferential treatment is probably not going to be a good enough argument to make those public. No one really knows what Prince Harry's precise immigration status or visa status is in the United States, or what he put in those documents, or what information and documentation that he supplied during that application process. And I personally don't think the court is likely to rule that, or I'm happy to be proven wrong if that's the case, as we'll find out in coming weeks. But going on previous rulings, the courts have consistently ruled that a person's visa status, immigration status, is private, and thus all personal information in that application process is all inherently private and exempt from disclosure. Niall Gardner for the Heritage Foundation, on the other hand, argues that it's preposterous that his application should be kept private, given that he's already spoken about drug use and in his personal life. And he says that this really matters to Americans and raises a number of issues as to whether or not he's been given special treatment in the United States and whether the rule of law is applied equally, adding that the issue of migration in the United States has become the number one issue for the presidential election. So quite obviously a hotly debated political topic regarding a high-profile figure and what is, on the face of it, admissions of drug use. The question as to whether those admissions are actually true is quite a prevalent one. And so just before we look at whether the argument has any real basis or whether it is indeed ridiculous, I'd like to thank a partner for my channel here, which is NordVPN. Just as with this Prince Harry case, many of you know that I've talked about the issues of privacy and keeping your identity confidential in a number of videos now. And I am proud to support NordVPN as a partner to my channel to help you to do exactly that. Only we have an increasing number of cases, and indeed there are nationally and internationally an increasing number of fraud cases where people are having their identities stolen, they're being impersonated, people are taking out loans in their name, and all sorts of things that have a detrimental effect on their life. But what many people don't realize is that if you take your phone or your laptop out to a public place, you connect to a public network, you are essentially opening the door to potential attacks upon your device, your phone or your laptop or whatever. Some of these are known as man-in-the-middle attacks. That is where you are attempting to contact a website and there is literally someone in the middle trying to hoover up that information and even impersonate third-party sites to try essentially to scam you and your machine into believing that they are the third party with whom you're trying to interact. This could be your bank or anybody else. And by doing so, they put you at all sorts of different risks. But NordVPN is a virtual private network. It secures your device and helps to prevent any of these malicious attacks, such as a man-in-the-middle attack. It will also scan websites that you visit and flag up dangerous websites and dangerous files that you attempt to download. As a partner to NordVPN, I can offer you 4 additional months if you subscribe with my link in the description below. And I get to have my photograph on their website, which is all very nice. Now, I've said many times I wouldn't recommend something to you that I don't use myself. I personally used NordVPN for many years with my own money, and I've tested it and used it myself. I use it on all of my devices, my phone, my laptop, my iPad, and I wouldn't connect to any public network without NordVPN being active, knowing that it's protecting me and my personal information, both for me and for my family, because you can connect all of your devices using it. So check out my link in the description below. It's nordvpn.com/BBB, because many of you refer to me as BBB, so I thought I'd make it easy for you. So nordvpn.com/BBB, the link is in the description below. You will have peace of mind and a 30-day money-back guarantee. So go ahead and sign up and thank me for that peace of mind. But now let's get back to talking about whether or not this argument about Harry's book and the admissions in it has any real basis in law. Well, it does, for one very specific reason. It is technically hearsay at best, because essentially hearsay is a statement not made in oral evidence that is evidence of a matter stated. Let me explain. So if you have any kind of statement at all, whether that is a recording of somebody saying something or a text message of somebody saying something, even something written down in a book or wherever else, if it is not oral statement in court, but you are seeking to prove that what it states is true, then it's hearsay, and it is not directly proof of what is stated. And the default rule is that hearsay is not admissible. Now, to my knowledge, no one is actually arguing to make this book a piece of evidence in this application in the United States for the release of Prince Harry's visa and immigration documents. But the argument by the Department for Homeland Security is essentially that this book is not evidence of what is stated. So it is very much like hearsay. You cannot just have a document by itself and say that it is proof that something happened. Now, whilst many of you might think that that is ridiculous because this is his memoirs and the synopsis of the book boasts that it is an unflinching, honest account of his life stories and therefore everything in it should be true, if you wanted to prove in court that this were true, that would just be one piece of the puzzle. It wouldn't be, as they put it, conclusive proof that that did in fact take place. It's a technicality, I know, but that is pretty much the primary basis on which this might have some legal merit. In other words, unless you had Prince Harry in that court hearing making a statement of evidence, either orally or a written statement of evidence which was accepted as evidence of the fact, evidence in chief of what happened and that he did in fact take those drugs, then the argument that the book itself is not proof has some legal merit because it's not him saying it. Now, this might all turn out to be a moot point, and the court might ultimately say, well, we accept that this book was written as true memoirs, and he did admit to that, and therefore it overrides the privacy aspect and the exemption of the release of these documents. I understand that the outcome of this hearing is not going to be available for some weeks, so we will find out. My prediction is that they will not order the department to release these documents. I might be wrong, but I will come back and I will happily and humbly say whether I'm right or wrong. But in the meantime, I thought that was quite a bold argument by the lawyers for the Department of Homeland Security, and we'll wait to see whether that holds any water. And in the meantime, thank you for allowing me the time to thank my partner for this channel. Please do check out the link in the description below. You will thank me for the peace of mind. Subliminally, at the back of your mind, you'll be much happier knowing that you have that protective layer between you and the big bad outside world of hackers and fraudsters. So with that, I thank you for watching. Please do remember to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you next time.